Welcome, Eric Miro. Good to have you back. Welcome, everybody. We are getting started here as soon as we see that we are streaming live. Welcome. Okay. And I'm just going to start going. Jane, give me a thumbs up when you see it on your end. So, Career Lab Wednesday, we are here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. Thank you so much, Jane. We meet here to help you in your career. We have topics every week. That's fine. That helps us gives us some focus, but pay attention to what's on your heart. Pay attention to what your challenges are. There's no question too small, no question too big. We sometimes have people join in several months and working on a leadership challenge that they might have. Developing themselves and getting more feedback from the group here. So please let us know what questions you have. You can type them into the chat. Welcome, Daniel. You can type those into the chat here. If you're joining in on LinkedIn or on YouTube, you can type your questions into the comment section and Jane will get those over to us. If you can, we love it when you jump directly into the Zoom line. That's available for you as well. You can come off mute and share your questions with us. We can work with you one-to-one. So that's the setup. I'll give a refresher on that in a little bit. But I want to reintroduce Drew Allison, who has been with us now for almost 2 months since finding out that his position was eliminated at the last company. And he has been giving us a deep dive, a window into his process for how he goes about getting the next job, doing the next thing. And it has been an interesting journey. And Drew, I'm going to pass it on over to you for you to update us with your progress, but also to loop in anything that you think is really important for people to understand about what you do.
Thanks so much, George. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here. This is the 8th week that I've joined in a row, and the accountability that comes here has been incredibly serving for me. And accountability kind of gets a bad rap. Folks tend to shy away from it, myself included. But one thing that I've learned in my career in sales is that having people that are counting on my presence is something that drives me to be consistent in my activity. And consistency tends to be my secret weapon. Where other salespeople will go in bursts and sprints. My goal is to be consistent with a high level of activity that is supported by a system that understands that I'm human. That I will get lazy, I will get angry, I will get sad, I will get hurt, and all of these things will disrupt my desire to be consistent and to be motivated to work. So I've found little accountability systems all throughout my life, whether it's friends, family, my wife, sales coaches, personal coaches, and it's really supported me in this season of my career as I've been transitioning from the corporate executive world to what I'm very happy to announce is the independent consulting world. So I over the past week, I have been finalizing a couple of contracts and am very excited to say that I am starting my own sales consulting firm with 3 clients, and I'm off to the races. So it's been.
Woo!
Thank you, George. I am beyond excited. It took 8 weeks to figure this all out, and and today's topic, especially around maximizing effort, that's been my goal over these 8 weeks is how do I make the most out of this drive to network and connect with people. And first and foremost, I have not turned down a single conversation in 8 weeks, even if I'm totally convinced that it's not worth the connection, it's not worth my time, we don't have anything in common. I have maintained a open door, say yes policy to every single conversation, and there hasn't been a single one that has that hasn't served me in some way or another, and hasn't served the person that I'm talking to. And it was that open-mindedness, the trust that I had in those in throughout the process that that opened me up to these opportunities to have consulting clients. And you know, my bottom line is that I am very good at establishing or enhancing sales engines. That's what my company does. We build or we enhance sales engines. And with that bottom line, I'm able to talk to anybody in any industry about how I might serve them. And that's been it's been amazing to understand what my value is and be able to bring it to the world. The the big kind of dirty secret behind that is that in it, for all the times that I've had trust in where I'm going and who I'm talking to, I've had equal amounts of fear and scarcity, having a scarcity mindset that I don't have enough time, I'm not smart enough, I'm not charismatic enough, I don't have enough experience. I don't know if I can charge as much as I want to charge in order to make the money that I want to make in this endeavor. All of these thoughts are running through my head as I am trying to build this business. And the the right developmental model is a model that we use at the foundation, and one of the core elements of that is this idea of how you either act reactively or proactively. And reactively in one of the parts of the model is acting from a place of scarcity and hiding from opportunity, hiding from chance, or working to gobble up as much resources as you can because you're scared that there's not enough. And if I'm doing that, if I'm trying to gobble up more than I need, I am not serving the people that I'm talking to. I'm not seeing them as people that I can benefit. I'm not seeing them as people that can benefit me. So when I notice myself having a scarcity mindset, I really rely on my activity, my pipeline, and the steps in that activity. And it gives me trust in the system. It says that I have the time, I have the patience, I have the skill, I have the ability. I am smart enough, I am charismatic enough, I can do this. I have trust in the process because I have proven results. And so fending off those scarcity thoughts, moving towards a trusting thought, really all it boils down to maximizing my activity and maximizing my efforts. So as I've been finalizing these contracts and starting to see that my life is about to get very, very busy, I did some serious planning last night. I took an Excel sheet. I created a weekly schedule, broke up every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. in 15-minute increments, and I laid out all the things that I want to get done in a week. And I started with things for me. I started with exercise, cooking, time with my wife, taking walks, like all the things that are important to me personally. And then I built work chunks around that. And the amount of calm that I got in that exercise, what that planning did for me, is it allowed me to come into this morning just feeling like I've got a game plan. And if it does, it's not going to go perfectly because things pop up all the time. But being able to pivot an existing game plan is so much more trusting than going in with no game plan at all. So George, that's a wild ride with where I'm at right now. I'm sure you got some bottom lining for me.
I thank you, Drew. Actually, I was on this journey with you. I am meeting with I just started meeting with another coach. As a coach, I believe in coaching, and I have lots of coaches. And I just started meeting with another one, developing cognitive coaching, and we were talking about planning today. So I'm like, Drew, this is kind of amazing. I was just in this process, and what I hear you talking about, and the developmental model, which I don't have on this computer, so I'm not going to share it here, but we'll put a link to a little video on it. We'll throw that in here in a little bit that you can check out later. If you think about, most people know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. we as human beings tend to avoid what's really going on with us. So at the most basic level is fear. And that's also aliveness, fear, aliveness. And fear can be experienced in the body in the same way as exhilaration. So that's a helpful little, trick I can tell myself is, oh, I feel afraid. Oh, well, I can also see it as aliveness. So what I hear you talking about, Drew, is that to pay attention to that, because so often what our tendency is to do is to try to jump over the fact that we feel afraid about something, especially maybe as guys, because no, I don't, I'm over fear. I don't get afraid anymore. But what we want to notice is that no, actually all the time there's an anxiety, there's a fear, and that's fine. Am I using it? And so what you're doing, Drew, what you're talking about in now you've got a job and there's all these things for you to do. The first thing you did was make a plan for yourself. So you use that anxiety in a way that's going to help you perform better and gives you, you gave the anxiety running through you somewhere to go. And that was into your plan. And so that is going to set you up better for all of the things that you're doing, just like what you're saying. So I think what I'm wanting to do is underline that to be suspicious about ourselves when we have a lot of programming and tendencies to jump over some of the basics. And in your job search, Drew, that's the thing that I so want to underline about what you did was you identified, I need to have a lot of meetings. I need to have a lot of phone calls. There's a lot that I need to do, a lot of activities that's going to put me in a position where I'm getting what I want. And so often people will avoid and just put their sights on one or two companies or one or two options or something. And, oh, I didn't get it. And now that's, what do I do now? Well, that just doesn't work that well. So having an activity will help get you what is better for you. So I don't know, I don't know if that was helpful. I hope it is. Thank you, Jane, for throwing that link in there. But we've got a lot of folks joining in, Drew, and I'm starting to see some questions coming in here.
There are some great questions in the chat.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this. Well, to start with, so Kurt, you said that you're wanting to interview better. Are you game to come off mute and play with us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fantastic. So Kurt, where are you interviewing?
I'm just applying different jobs at the moment. I don't have a bunch lined up just yet, but I'm going after like clinical specialist type of roles in the medical device space.
Okay. So have you had any interviews yet?
One, did not hear from them. So
okay.
Trying to get more going.
How did you do in the interview how do you assess you did?
I think I forgot to ask a lot of questions about the person interviewing me, and I let him do all the questioning.
Okay.
Maybe that was a part I need to work on.
Okay. And so how would you work on that?
Maybe putting out a list of questions, like trying to figure out how long they've been with the company, what they do and don't like about the company, what are the pain points about and the turnover rate and stuff like that.
Do you have a hunch about that company? Do you have an idea of what the issues are that are there and the problem that they have, or the why they're hiring you and how you would fit into that?
When I'm going into like a new interview?
Yeah. Well, let's play with this one because we have it.
Yeah.
We have it as an example.
Do I know why they would consider me? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Why is the position open?
Oh, yeah. They just, I guess, because they need someone to do the job.
And what's the job?
To train, advise, replace the products, or get more of the products, teach, do demos, get the providers comfortable with using the products.
Uh-huh. And the person who is interviewing you, what's their role? How are they related to?
Yeah, the
that
person I
position?
spoke with was like a sales executive who had used to be on the sales support clinical specialist side, and but I guess also a recruiter, but I think he's a sales executive as well.
Okay, so what are the questions that you have about that position that person might help you understand?
I guess like what the training program's like before getting onboarded or out on the field to do the actual job. Typical work schedule. I mean, some of these things I did ask.
So with what Drew was talking about, if you can picture yourself in that position, in that company, that's your job. And if you can let yourself imagine yourself, whether you're going into the office or working from a computer and thinking things through, what things do you have anxiety about in that position? Of like, how would I do this?
I guess like in that role, so like I guess it's during surgeries you're supposed to assist or do some type of support stuff with the instruments or products. So understanding when to provide a service or be available for support, or how often. Trying to think. I don't know, I guess because obviously doctors know what they're doing when it comes to surgery, and they're pretty well trained, and I think maybe part of the training in the actual company side of how the doctors may need support from the product would provide me with that answer.
Okay, cool. I'm going to do a quick pause here and set some context for everybody. So part of how this group works is for you to be picturing. So you're not Kurt. You don't have the exact job that he's interviewing for. You're not in that exact environment, but to be in the question of and having, so as Kurt is exploring this, you're thinking about where it is in your job or in the places you're applying that this would translate to. So you're learning vicariously. Just wanted to underline that. So you're taking us in, Kurt, and we're starting to get a sense of, okay, in the operating room with the surgeon, with all this process going on. So I'm starting to now, my anxiety is going up like, oh geez, wow, we're operating on somebody, my goodness, okay. And so I'm starting to picture and feel what it's going to be like there. And so now I'm getting more data about the person who is interviewing you and saying like, okay, so they have experience with all of this. And now I'm starting to have all kinds of questions pop up like, yeah, what is the training program like? Obviously, I'm trained in this. This is what I'm applying for, but I know it's different in terms of like when I'm actually in there. What was it like for you? How long did it take for you to feel comfortable and feel like you really belonged and knew you were part of, being a success there? Is this, Kurt, how are we doing?
Good. Yeah. I think what's coming to mind is, well, like I don't have a medical degree. How do I get the recruiter or person that's interviewing me to consider me, although I have background working with some medical devices. Maybe some other people have these more advanced degrees.
Do you need a medical degree to get the job?
And no, because it's not like I'm performing the surgery or procedures, but I just start thinking like that is what comes to worry or to my mind is, oh, I don't have a medical degree. I haven't studied medicine per se, so maybe and that might just put me at a huge disadvantage.
I don't know. It might. I'm not sure. I don't know about the position you're applying for and stuff.
Right.
Oh, wait, well, we have somebody saying it's not. So, okay.
Yeah,
so
because
it's
I
not-
work with clinical specialists all the time as a physician, and you don't need a medical background for that kind of a job. All you need is just an understanding of the technology and how it can be. And it's mostly an on-the-job training, apart from having the initial refresher. You don't really need to be in medicine for it at all, if
Awesome.
that helps.
Thank you. Good to hear.
Thank
And
you.
which company? Is it a surgical device company or is it a medical device company that you're
Yeah,
trying to interview for?
Yeah, this company was like neurosurgery and spinal surgery types of equipment. I initially didn't think I needed to have a medical degree background, but I don't know. I do think I don't know. I just have a bachelor's degree. Go ahead.
Is it
Oh.
Medtronic or Stryker? In the same
Oh,
thing,
it was-
which company are you interviewing for?
This company, well, I haven't heard from them, so I take it they've moved on. It was called Brain Lab.
Brain Lab. Okay, yeah. So it's basically a Brain Lab is the navigation system that we use, and then once you know the basic setup, it's nothing of medicine. Trust me, you can kind of very easily learn on the job, or when they give you the initial introduction.
Yeah, and then of course I've gone after those other big names, but haven't gotten interviews.
Okay, so
One
cool.
thing
This is
you don't need that.
so Kurt, as we're getting more info here, and I'm seeing Daniel's question too. My hunch is becoming that you demonstrating and making contact with the person who's interviewing you and having them get a good feel is probably really important. And there's two things that people are questioning when they're interviewing you. One is, does this person get stuff done? Like if I hire this person, am I going to have to babysit them, or are they going to handle things and get things done? And the other thing is, do I like them? Do I like working with them? Are they somebody who I want to be around? And so those two things are behind every single question they ask you. And so the more that you can demonstrate, share examples of how you get things done, how you handle things, and also get across that you're a decent human being that is good on a team, that's really important.
Okay.
So are you seeing ways that you can do that in your next interview?
Yeah, definitely preparing better, more by giving examples. Yeah.
Preparing
George,
more by, yeah, go ahead, Drew.
I just want to, so you were talking about, our responsibility as listeners to put ourselves kind of in Kurt's shoes and see how it applies to our own lives. And, what I'm hearing from Kurt is, this question of, am I good enough? Have I, can I hold my own in these conversations? And one of the things that when I first lost my job, I was reaching out to people and my language was, hey, George, my position was just terminated. I'm, looking for a new opportunity. Is there any chance you might be able to keep me in mind as you're interacting with your network? And yeah, that's okay. But it's like, I'm like little Timmy with my hands out saying like, please, sir, may I have a morsel of your attention? And I got coached on it. And somebody was like, listen, you're a gift. The fact that you're on the job market means that somebody is going to have a huge win when they hire you, and it's your responsibility to come from a place of strength and to say that I have this value and this is what I'm bringing to the table. And as I began to change my language, I noticed that I was getting more referral networking connections than I was before. I was owning the fact that I've got a skill set, and this is what it is, and this is what I'm looking for. And people responded really well to it. And so as I'm listening to Kurt, I'm thinking of, how would I go into an interview and convey the expertise and the skills that are needed to be successful, even if I don't have the direct experience in that specific industry. Like George was saying, like how do you solve the problems that need to be solved in that role? How do you get things done? And how do you do it in a way that people are going to enjoy working with you? So I just wanted to kind of share that, my spin and take on this as I'm listening to Kurt's story.
That's awesome, Drew. Thank you. Kurt, what are you hearing from that?
I'm listening. No, it's good advice. Just taking it in.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That a couple things around interviewing. So our overall approach is to interview the interviewer. And you mentioned that about asking questions, having good questions to ask them. That's going to show more than if you just list off what you've done and what your training and examples. That's fine. You can give some talk a little bit about yourself, but what's way more, what gives somebody a much better feel for you is when you're asking them questions about that company and sussing out if it's a place that you want to work. If you can take that internal affirmation of like what Drew's saying, I'm a gift, and am I going to be a gift at this place or at another place? I'm going to find out where I'm going to be a gift, because I know that I'm worth it. I know that this is good. So is this a place I even want to be? Okay, now I'm going to start asking about the training that goes on there. What's it like? What's the environment like? Does this fit in with where I want to develop? So we say that a job or your career is a pathway for you to reach your potential. So is this thing that you're applying for, is that going to help you develop the skills that you want to develop? And then that gives you a lot of questions to ask, because what's the training program? How is this place going to help me develop? And as you're doing that, as you're asking those questions, it's letting the person know that you're really in there thinking about it. And that gives them more security than somebody who comes in and says, oh, I already know how to do this. And in this case, Kurt, it's you don't know how to do this, and you know that, but that's not a strike against you.
Mm-hmm. Isn't the goal, or doesn't every company want to portray like they have the best work culture environment and the best training and everything? So
I don't know. What do you, Drew? I see you smiling. Cynthia, I see you smiling.
Well, there's definitely companies that like to BS you on that and try to oversell it. I've actually found, so to give you a little context to the activity that I've been doing, I've been applying to 15 jobs a week. I've been having 3 first-round interviews a week and 1 second or third round interview a week. Those have been my milestones in my job hunt pipeline. And that's and so in those conversations, and I've been doing it for 8 weeks. So, I've had close to 35, 40 interviews in that time. And a lot of people have been very honest about the current state of their culture. And I think with the pandemic and company cultures changing a lot, people are just very aware that there are deficiencies in the way that they're connecting with their workforce, the way they're motivating people, and so while they want to put their best foot forward, I've actually found that a lot of folks have been really open about where they need help, and then that gives me the opportunity to say, well, this is how I contributed to my company culture previously. These are the types of things I do outside of the roles and responsibilities of the specific position, and how I support. But yeah, your point, Kurt, sometimes you run into interviewers that aren't great at interviewing, and that's when they try to like throw fluff at you and throw kind of spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. But yeah, that's been my experience.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Well, Kurt, how are we doing? Do you got enough to work with here?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cool. Well,
Thank you.
let us know. And do you have any interviews lined up?
I mean, I've applied to jobs, some more jobs. I think I may need to be applying to more because I haven't heard from anyone yet. So
Okay. And so let us know. Keep us in the loop. Would love to hear from you again. And I see a question from Jonah about networking. And I suspect, Kurt, that networking is something that would help as well. And I want to tee this one up, Drew, and have you talk about this. So, because you have been deep in this recently. So do you have tips on how to network without it being or feeling transactional or artificial?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that is the simple answer is the more you do it, the more natural it will become. So it's one of those like just having as many conversations as you can possibly have with as many different types of people and just exposing yourself to what those one-to-one conversations feel like and the anxieties that come up while you're having them. So I made a career shift a couple years ago from the retail industry to the insurance industry. And as I was deciding what industry I wanted to go into, I was having conversation. I targeted my friends' families. So I looked at all my friends and I said, I want to talk to your parents. I want to talk to your siblings. I want to talk to your spouse. And I want to get to know, because these people knew me to a degree. And I wanted to get to know what they did, why they're doing it, and why they love what they do. And maybe what do they hate about what they do too? And having that mission of wanting to talk to people about their careers gave me a framework for the conversations, for the networking conversations. Because often, you might think, okay, I want to network, but I don't know what to talk about. And letting people in on what your project is at the time helps. It invites them to serve you in a very concrete and clear way. So during that time of my life, I asked people very directly, hey, George, would you mind telling me about your job and why you love what you do? And people love talking about themselves. You talk about interviewing the interviewer, and with the conversation with Kurt, if you can get the interviewer to talk about themselves and what they love about the company,
Mm-hmm.
they from a neuroscience standpoint, they have this amazing experience because they're feeling seen and cared for, and they feel like it's a great interview. And all you did was get them to talk about themselves. And especially if you're in any sort of like sales or management or any kind of customer facing thing, people love to talk about themselves, and that's great. So that's my first thing with networking. Don't be afraid to let people in on whatever project you're facing, either personally or professionally, and invite them to join along with you. The other thing I do is I keep them short. Most of my networking conversations start with a 15-minute conversation, and I let them know, hey, I've got another meeting coming up, right at the end of ours, so I've got a hard stop in 15 minutes. And then it forces me to make the most out of that time with somebody. And if it ends up not being the best conversation, I'm only committed to 15 minutes, and I found that to be really helpful. The other piece of advice I would say is when you're building rapport with somebody and you feel like you're having a great conversation, the tendency for people is to back away a little and not ask too much of somebody. So if George and I are having this wonderful conversation, I may end it by just being like, hey, George, that was awesome. Can't wait to talk again. And I don't want to ask anything of you because I'm afraid I may ruin the rapport that we've developed. But the reality is when somebody begins to care for us, they want to help, they want to support. So I always, as a matter of my kind of my principle and my system. If I'm having a really good conversation with somebody, I end it by saying, "Hey George, is there somebody in your network that you wouldn't mind introducing me to? Is there somebody in your network that's doing things like you and I are doing, that has the same outlook on life, whatever it might be? I'd love the chance to talk to them as well." And it's those connections of connections that lead to, again, that sort of trusting mindset, volume of activity. One of the clients that I have right now they are 3 connections removed from the original person I spoke to. So I reached out to Eric. Eric introduced me to Corey. Corey introduced me to Dan, and Dan introduced me to John. And John is my client now. And so that being open to these kind of chain effects with networking is really key. Having an updated LinkedIn sounds simple, but with a really clean message of who you are really helps, because you want to have an online presence. There are people out there who pride themselves on making connections all the time, and they have high standards of who they connect and why. I was connected to a woman in the cannabis consulting industry this morning, and she and the person that connected us wrote these little bios about each of us and included our LinkedIn profiles. It was awesome. I felt so like seen and cared for, and like I was like, this is amazing. And but it was important to the person that we had accurate pictures and images of each other, so we could decide if we wanted to kind of continue that networking conversation. And this actually ties into a question that somebody messaged me privately about, like, how specifically do you change your language from being more passive, please sir, may I have another, to really showing up as a gift and somebody that has value. It's just a concept that I simply call my bumper sticker. And it's 1 to 2 sentences of my value and my differentiator of who I am. And for me, when I came up with the bumper sticker that I build and enhance sales engines, that's it. That's my tagline. So when somebody asks me, "Hey Drew, can you send me a little bio about yourself?" That's all I send. I build and enhance sales engines. And people are like, "Well, what the hell's a sales engine? And what do you mean you build and enhance them?" It prompts them to ask me questions, and then we get into an engaging moment, as opposed to 2 people kind of talking at one another. So those are all ways that I've made sure to network really authentically. Being open and honest with people, having a structure for my conversations, not being afraid to ask people for more connections, and having a really clear kind of personal brand that I can kick things off with. And that bumper sticker idea has been a huge one for me. I got it from a sales coach a couple of years ago. And no matter, so right now, not only is my bumper sticker, I build and enhance sales engines, I have a bumper sticker for each, well, I'm developing a bumper sticker for each of my clients, so I can introduce my role in that relationship as cleanly as I introduce myself. So
That's fantastic. That is like the last 5 minutes. I'm like, we should just cut that and put it in a little demo for people to review. That's great. Thank you so much, Drew. In networking, knowing that you're a gift, knowing how to communicate that, and taking authority in the situation, being the author of it, saying, we're meeting for this long. You can take off the anxiety that other people might be feeling about stuff when you do that. So I really like that all of the points that you walked us through there, Drew. And I know that Jonah, you're not here on the Zoom, but if you have any more questions or want to make any comments about what Drew just shared there, please do. That's fantastic. Great question. Thanks for asking it. Now I see that we have another one here. So how do you change the language when you network or looking for opportunities? I'm not quite sure what you mean there. Are you able to come off mute and share more? Drew, do you know what they mean by that?
I think Drew kind of answered that a little bit. Like basically, initially his statement was like, "Can you connect me to some network? I'm looking for opportunity." Instead of that, just kind of coming across as something that you're a valuable addition to their team. Like, how do you network with that kind of a language? That's what I was asking.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's, the going back to the kind of my first point on that, it's all about game time and practice. And when the more conversations that we can have, the better we're going to be at being really comfortable in our own skin and comfortable about talking about these things. One thing that I've found is I've got a couple of people in my circle who I can workshop things with. I can be like, "Hey George, you got 5 minutes? I want to run this bumper sticker by you. I want to give you this pitch, and I'd just love to hear your thoughts on it." And some of them are really critical people who always have feedback. Some are cheerleaders that will always be positive, and some will oscillate between the two. And I find that each set of feedback styles is really beneficial, because sometimes I just need a cheerleader to pump me up before I go into a big meeting or an interview. I know I'm already set, but I just need someone, and like my dad is really good at that. My mom really good at being critical. So, and that can be a conversation for another day, but it's very helpful in this situation because she's always got some piece of feedback she can give. So it's so workshopping those ideas is a great way to get comfortable with the language, and not being afraid to write them down. We're in the Zoom world. You've got multiple monitors. I have a small monitor in front of a big monitor. When I was talking earlier and I had some things I wanted to share with you all, I had a couple notes written on my big monitor right above my camera of things that I wanted to hit. And don't be afraid to have those notes for yourself, like a little cheat sheet during an interview, and kind of reminding you of your bumper sticker or a personal purpose statement, or even a short quote that that gets you going and makes you feel good. Those little systems can be the difference between having your story tight and having to kind of make it up as you go. So.
Oh,
Thank you.
so much good stuff here.
Focus on your study.
Hey, Janet, welcome. Good to have you here. Oh, this is fantastic. And I'll share this little one. One of my little tricks is I have a little figurine of Chewbacca that I have that I can see that reminds me that it's a meaningful image to me. So I use sticky notes too, and sometimes I'll use Chewbacca. So any of these prompts that help us do well with our interviewing and meetings. Well, so I'm going to do a quick room reset. We've got about 15 minutes left. This is Career Lab Wednesday, every Wednesday noon.
Hey,
to
George,
1 Central.
I'm at my desk working while listening
Uh-huh.
to you guys. And this is what I've got going on my desk.
I can't see it because you've got this.
There we
you've
go,
got
maybe.
the background.
Okay, let me unleave my background. I've got Post-it notes all over the place, just on things that I need to get done, established, and words. So let me see if I can undo my background.
See if you can do that, and you should also take a picture of that and send it to our group. That would be good.
I'm
So
horrible.
we're here every Wednesday noon to 1. And we're again here to serve you with any questions that you have. We've been talking about interviewing and networking today. If you have any challenges in your current company, if you're wanting to work on your relationships with your team, your boss, whatever, that is all fair game. So keep that in mind. Great having everybody in here today. You're welcome, Kurt. Great question, a way to engage. And Jonah says, yes, very in-depth, helpful with realistic situations. Thank you. Yes, nice going, Drew. That's really great. So
Hey, I figured it out.
oh, cool. Oh,
So
cool.
this is what my
Let us
desk is
see.
looking like. I've got this. I've got little Be Mindful rock that I got hidden on here. I've got my Star Wars calendar, a stress ball, post-it notes all over the place that you guys aren't seeing.
Nice.
And that's how I deal with my workday.
That's great, Janet.
And I
Thank you
even
for
have a note
sharing.
binder with notes telling me what works I need to do for work also outside of post-it notes.
Right on.
And here's today's quote for The Mandalorian.
I was hoping to be free for life, maybe even get home to the family. Guess that's not going to happen this year. Okay. Well, I guess in our dreams.
Yes.
Janet, thank you. So does anybody have, before we wrap up, Daniel, good to see you. Is
Hey
there
there.
any more questions or anything that you want to share?
Well, there's a question for Drew. I'm on a similar journey to what Drew's been doing, and have been on the call for several weeks and some sporadically as well. So we've seen each other a few times. And so what has happened with me is that I'm looking. I did not set out, and it doesn't sound like you did either, to do independent consulting. But it's been a result of a lot of the conversations I've been having with people. So I have a couple contracts that I'm working on while in pursuit of finding the long-term fit on a team. It's not, I don't want to keep the lights on forever as an independent consultant. It's just not, I haven't fully owned that yet. So can you tell me more about the inflection point? Because clearly you've kept a really big pipeline of opportunities. Theoretically, somebody could call you tomorrow and say, hey, join our team. But it sounds like you've decided now that that's not the path you're going down. And I'd love to know more about that inflection point.
Yeah, it's a great question, and good to see you, Daniel. I have kept a lot of options open, and I've got a lot of things, at various stages in the pipeline. So, who knows what the future will hold. But the moment that I decided I wanted to go down the independent route and start my own consulting firm was when I realized that I had 3 contracts available to me that all served different purposes. So I have one contract that's a startup nonprofit where there's not a lot of income right now, but there's a lot of potential in the next, starting in the summer and growing into next year. And it's a little bit more of a passion project. Passion projects don't typically pay the bills. So the first thing I did was secured a short-term project management contract that gave a little bit of income, and the time commitment to it is also pretty minimal. It's only about 10 hours a week. So I knew, so that was kind of the step one was, okay, how can I get a little bit of income, kind of keep the lights on, and then focus on this passion project. But I needed something that was also going to pay the bills, and pay enough to where I could start to save money that I would be putting back into the business as I go. And so the third contract is a sales development role with a straight salary that I'm earning. So as opposed to being 100% commission or income in the future, this is the straight salary that's giving me the foundation to build the rest of the company on. So the inflection point was being able to line up those 3 different projects that kind of serve different financial functions, that all supported each other in kind of different ways. And so the last thing I wanted to do was put money into my business without making money first. And so having that steady income and then being able to build from there. One of the big takeaways I got from talking to a lot of independent sales consultants is that what they set out to do in the market is very far from the eventual product that they ended up creating and selling. And because they had an idea in their head of, people need me to do X, Y, and Z. But as they actually got to talk to people, they realized that what those people need is ABC. It's a different product or a different service. Like a real-time example, there was a gentleman, he and I had a very similar mindset. We wanted to do some really cool, unique sales training products where we'd go into a company and do a half day, a day, or a multi-day sales training. And it turned out what he wanted to do was not what people would be willing to pay him for. So he created a product that responded to what the market wanted, and was flexible in his own model to respond to what people needed. And what people needed were more hard skills at the forefront. He wanted to do more emotional intelligence, but what people needed were like hard sales skills. So he ended up creating two products: the hard skills that he could sell, and the soft skills that he could do for his passion and for his heart. And then he was able to kind of balance his business that way. So learning that it's important for me to get in the market and find out what people need, that takes time. And that takes time. So securing the contract with the steady salary for 6 months gives me time to figure out, okay, what does the market want from me? And how can I put that into a package that's sellable? But how do I also serve my own passions as well? That's where the Passion Project comes in, the nonprofit. So it was kind of balancing all those spinning plates. And once they all started spinning in harmony, it became obvious that, at least to me, that this was the path that I needed to go down. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I have at least one follow-up, which is just, some of the conversations that I've been having, I imagine the same is true with you. So some of the conversations I've been having, of course, networking, have yielded these contracts even when I haven't really been looking for them. And then some of the people I'm talking to are organizations which I'm interested in working for in the long term in a permanent role. But as a way in, I could do some contracting with them, but it's been a little bit, I have not yet figured out the right verbiage to both communicate, I'm open for business in the short term, and I'm interested in some of these opportunities or something long term. People haven't been able to sort of hear both messages. They hear one of them and not the other one.
You bring up a fantastic point, because in order for somebody to help you, your message needs to be super clear. Hey George, I want to build or repair sales engines. George is like, okay, I understand that. And then if I go, well, George, I want to build or repair sales engines, and I'm willing to be a W-2 employee, but also looking for contract work as well. Suddenly you've added these different filters and these different things, and then the message starts to get muddled. And I ran into literally the exact same thing as I was talking to people. What I decided to do was self-edit my message based on the person I was talking to, and focus on the most immediate way that they could serve me. So if I was if I had a networking conversation with George and he knew people that could offer full-time employment opportunities, that's what I talked to George about. I shelved the independent contractor part, and I strictly focused on what would resonate with him. The next meeting, I might be meeting with you, Daniel, and it turns out that you've got more contract work available, or people in that space. I totally ignore the W-2 work, the full-time work, and I tailor my message to you. Instead of trying to give you a huge picture of everything I do, I tailor a very specific message to each person. And in doing that, I am almost pretending like this is the only thing that I'm focused on. And it helps me clarify what's really important to me. So, there's sort of an ancillary benefit to that as well. But not being afraid to edit my messages to the specific people I'm networking with, and really just pitch myself as somebody who they can serve beautifully. That's how I solve that problem.
Daniel, great questions. Thank you for asking those. I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this. Will you share how you're going to use that, especially that last bit that Drew just shared with what you're working on? Do you have some examples of how you would pick and how you'd be specific with what you're looking for?
Definitely. Although one other caveat that I'll add in is that I'm now at an inflection point with 2 contracts. Drew, you're at 3, it sounds like, that I'm trying to not take on another contract in order to leave open the option for that next call to come in for a team I really want to join in a full-time capacity, because I can moonlight on these other couple things. But if I take on another, then I'm sort of, I need to commit myself to that independent path.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that, but what is always a good reminder, and Drew did a great job of reminding it, is that yeah, giving two different messages that are opposed or different is not serving you and not serving your listener well, and choosing even if you're eschewing something else in the process, choosing a path and a clear message will give more dividends than being like, well, I can do everything. I can work for you. I can contract for you. Here's my menu of options. Just be super clear. I think serves interviews. I think serves communication scenarios in all facets of life, personal and professional. So
with the so you have two contracts, and do you have is there a company or an organization that is the third, that is one that you want, that you're waiting to hear back from?
The third one, which I expect an answer from today or tomorrow, the like top third one is a 1099 situation, but it's a full-time 1099 situation, and so yes, but it's closer to employee than it is contractor.
Okay. And do you know if you hear back from them, are you taking it?
Well, we'll have to see the terms. What you taught me once was to tell them, I've got another offer, let me review.
Okay. Cool. I look forward to hearing more about it, Daniel.
Great, thanks.
Well, sweet. Good stuff today. Thank you everybody for joining in. This is Career Lab Wednesday, every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. Our job is to help you realize your potential in your career. So any career-related questions are on the table. Let us know what you want. Let us know how we can support you. And we do have our next More Life training coming up. This is a deep dive into social and emotional intelligence. Coaches take this training with us very often to help them deepen their skills, but it's open to anybody. So if you like this stuff, if you like some of the things we talk about here, and you want to get a deeper dive into it, check it out. Everybody I work with, when I see them do this, they get a greater sense of purpose for themselves, and ramp up their level of engagement with their friends, family, and coworkers. So take a look at that. Also, happy for you to set up a time to talk with me. 15 minutes, I'd love to talk, serve you as much as I can in that time. And Kurt, there's a couple links in this chat. Maybe you can see them there, and we'll make sure that those are on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. So again, Drew, thank you so much for joining in. You've got your things now, so I hope that we'll be able to see you back occasionally. I know you mentioned that you like being here and like hosting here. So I hope to have you back a few times as you can make it. We'll be in touch about that. But huge congratulations to you. I can say that over the past 2 months, you have used your job search to transform, to become more of who you want to be. It's really cool to see you doing that, to see you have a confidence that you didn't have before. And so you used this challenge to develop that for yourself, and you took us on the journey with you. So I really, really, really appreciate you, and huge kudos to you.
Well, thank you so much, George. It means a lot, and this community means a lot, and it's wonderful to be here. And yeah, I look forward to continuing to be part of the community, because, like you said, so much of what we talk about here is not only relevant when we're on the job search, but as we're manifesting our career at our current companies and current contracts, and the work that we do. It's sort of like going to couples counseling before you have a fight. You know, the more that I can do work before I get myself into hot water is the best thing possible. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to continue to be here. So
Fantastic. Sweet.
Hey,
Thank you so
George,
much.
my contract got renewed for my job.
Woo!
Renewed until the end of June.
Oh,
And they give you
congratulations,
3 months
Janet.
contract. track. So I am so happy.
Oh, good to hear. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Oh, thank
And
you. That's
I
great.
found out what my skills are.
Oh,
Skills are-
beautiful.
that I
Beautiful,
matrixed off of.
beautiful. Okay, well, sweet. Well, thank you. I've got a session to jump into. Many blessings, everybody. And
Thank you.
we'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot, y'all.